AM 590 KXSP Omaha's ESPN Radio. Pull them belts tight, because it's time for the front stretch. Presented by Koziski Auto Parts at 50th and I Street.
Welcome to another edition of the Front Stretch, presented by Koziski Auto Parts, 50th and I Street, online at koziski.com. I was kind of playing around on your guys' site there. You can kind of get a brief idea of what the site's about, but the best way to get an idea of what you guys do is just to head down to the shop.
I think it was last week or a couple weeks ago, Joe, you're talking about lifetime batteries.
Absolutely. Lifetime warranty on batteries. Premium
recycled parts. You guys salvage the vehicles. You guys pull the parts out. You make sure they're of quality and that they're not just going to break down on the side of the road as you're heading down L Street or I Street or 50th or 60th.
Missouri River Bridge.
So you're going to get a quality used part. You're going to put it on your car, and you're going to save yourself a heck of a lot of money by stopping at Koziski Auto Parts, 50th and I Street right there in Omaha.
And you get to talk to Andrew. He's right there on the phone.
I tell you, that's the highlight of my day is when I pop in there and Andrew and I get to say, hi.
Yeah.
He usually goes, what do you want?
What I like is when I go into Koziski Auto Parts and I'm needing something, why go to other places and get it yourself and get all nasty dirty when it's 20 below zero and Andrew and his buddies are out there in the cold, and you're sitting inside talking to the legendary Joe Koziski, and Andrew comes in looking like a popsicle with boots on, and
they can go fetch it for you.
Yeah.
That's nice. What I want to talk about today in Turn 1, and we're going to kind of span this throughout Turn 2, and then we're going to get to our next interview of the Legend of the Dirt series. Kelly Shryock coming up in Turns 3 and 4. Great interview out of North Central Iowa, and he had a lot of great things to say, and we interviewed a couple of weeks ago, so we'll play that interview for you as a part of the Legend of the Dirt track. Again, in Turn 1 and 2, though, what I want to kind of break down, I want to talk about some of these NASCAR drivers, the Cup Series guys, the top 20 drivers that didn't make it into the chase. I kind of want to break down what they need to do next year to get back into the chase and to get their car righted, and one of them, the biggest name that stands out to me of the top 20 and of the 80 cars that competed in the Sprint Cup Series for points this year, Carl Edwards.
I was just getting ready to say Carl Edwards.
Finished the season 15th in points. I've been kind of going back. Speed's doing this thing right now where they're doing the NASCAR Sprint Cup replays, where they're going back and playing all the races again all season long. And Carl never seemed to have it this year. Is this a hangover from a tough loss for the championship? Did the organization simply miss? Guys, what do you think?
I'm totally speechless. I mean, to not see Carl Edwards in the chase, that's like saying Andrew Koziski is going to drive a sport compact at I-80 this week. I mean, who'd have ever thought that? So, it's total loss for words. To me, my biggest surprise outside of Carl was Kyle Busch. That was my biggest, shocker there. But with Carl, I have nothing to say to that. I'm speechless.
So what do you think it was, though? Do you think it was simply that organization having a bit of a hangover from the tough loss they took in the championship last year?
The organization won Daytona, didn't they?
They did. But that organization also did fall off late in the year.
Late in the year they did, yes.
Well, do you think it could have been a fact? I've seen this at the dirt track level. A guy will dominate 1 year or he'll win 6, 7, 8 races. And I'm not saying that this was the issue, but could have been the issue, Joe. I mean, you were a team owner and a driver. Do you think their confidence may have gotten the best of them? They were kind of walking in with some swagger, not cocky, arrogant, but maybe they were overconfident, thinking that they had this in the bag. And then all of a sudden, just little things started happening all over the place and they just weren't there at the end of the year.
I don't know if that was it, but you got to remember Tony caught Carl and passed him in the chase. So there was something maybe that we didn't really see totally through the chase. Yes, he looked good at Homestead, but in the chase, he lost quite a few points when Tony was catching him. So maybe there was more to it. It might have been started, halfway through the chase last year.
Maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, but Carl and Tony, last 2 or 3 races in the 2011 season, let's go back to Texas, Carl won. That's the third to last race. Phoenix, the second to last race. Carl won. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. This is point standings, not results.
I was going to say if he won, he would have had the wins of what he'd have made it by the point win.
I should have known that. I'm going to go off of memory here. Tony won at Texas. Carl finished second. Phoenix, Carl finished second. Tony finished third, and then Tony was 1 point behind him in the championship standings going into Homestead. Carl's biggest issue last year. Didn't put the W's up. He had good finishes, but he didn't put the W's up. In fact, Carl had the best 12-race average finish of anybody in the Chase format history. I believe he finished with an average of 4.7 or 4.8. Tony had those 2 races at Kansas, and I can't remember what the other race was where he finished like out of the top 20. Just had horrible races, and that's the reason why he had to win 5 in order to win the championship. But I think this is just nothing more than Carl. It was a heartbreak for him to lose that, and I don't think he's over it. I think he's still reeling from, because they did everything but win to win that championship, and that has to kill him. In 2008, he got the closest besides 2011. He finished second in the championship points. 2009, he finished 11th. In 2010, he finished 4th, and then obviously in 2011, he finished second. He has constantly been in the chase and constantly been up there battling for the wins. Just something was off this year, and now they've announced that Jimmy Finnick, former crew chief for Matt Kenseth, will be heading over and heading up that 99 team. Do you think that's going to be what's going to get this ship righted, having Jimmy Finnick, the old veteran, up on the crew box?
I don't think it's going to hurt anything, but I think there's some fine-tuning at all levels of the organization that need to be tweaked a little bit to get it back to where it was, here within the last year, maybe 2 years.
Okay. Let's talk about Kyle Busch. He just misses the chase. Barely misses the chase, and ends up finishing 13th in the points. He had a pretty good lead over Ryan Newman, who was 14th in the points. So do you see Kyle having a rebound year? And I want to pose one question to you, and I want you to kind of answer it the same way you would think about Carl Edwards too. Both Kyle and Carl reduced their commitments in the Nationwide Series this year. Do you think that had an impact on their performance up in the Cup Series because they had less driving time throughout the entire weekend? Do you think that was an issue with Kyle, and do you think that was an issue with Carl?
Not at all. I don't think so.
I'd argue with you on that. I think it's like a football player. The more times they're on the field, the more times they're going to do better. Peyton Manning didn't get back to form by not throwing footballs.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing goes with racing.
My mentor in radio told me you're never going to get anywhere doing one shift a week.
Well, no. And
that's absolutely right. Listen, you don't race once a week.
No.
You race twice a week. If you could afford it, you would probably race 3 times a week.
If I could afford it, I'd race 4 times a week.
And that's just that much more experience. The fact that these guys are going to the track, they're not racing at I-80 one week or on Friday, and then another track on Saturday, and then another track on Wednesday. Friday, they can race the truck race at Texas. Saturday, they can race the Nationwide race at Texas. And then Sunday, they can race the Cup race at Texas. So they've got that much more experience with all 4 corners, all the bumps and the nuances and the way the track feels. Andrew, what do you think?
I believe it, but I don't, because the top 3 in points this year ran less Nationwide races than those 2 guys did, and they ran top 3 in the points. Keselowski, Jimmy, and Clint Boyer, all 3 of them, they do not run hardly any Nationwide races. Jimmy runs none. So, look at those 3 guys, but I do think that you do get better by racing twice a week, but I don't think that has nothing to do with Carl Edwards and Kyle Busch.
No. I think the deal with Kyle Busch, and Joe, you've been around racing longer than I've been alive. A lot of people have said...
Come on, bud. Longer than you've been alive. Come on.
Can you find any more ways to call you old and fat?
My God, this guy's on me every week.
Off air, you called him fat again.
No. I'm just, just because he looks like he could be the spokesperson for Land O'Lakes doesn't mean he's fat.
He's going to keep hitting that horse till
yeah, it's almost dead now,
You found a good one.
But we've heard the old saying, I'd rather be lucky than good. Is it feasible and rational to say that you could win championships being lucky versus being good?
We've seen lucky.
Okay, so with that being said...
Jimmy Johnson hit the wall, second race with a flat tire?
No, and this is a serious question. So with that being said, here's what I think Kyle Busch's deal was. It was just a case of not good luck, bad luck. That's all it is.
Yeah,
he blew up more motors than anybody else did this year. Kyle Busch was all mechanical failures.
Yeah.
It wasn't his personal driving.
All I can say is I believe the 18 is going to be a powerful force in 2013.
I think Rowdy's got even more of a fire in his belly now.
I do too.
Yeah,
and I can't accept everything. The Busch brothers have had their bad times, but let's face it, the same person that'll sit and talk about the Busch brothers right now today, I'll go down to the dirt track and love Scott Bloomquist and cause the same kind of it's just racing. It's all in our.
I think besides the mechanical failures that Andrew just brought up, I think Kyle Busch's biggest issue was that he was handcuffed this year. The events at Texas last year put him on public probation, basically. Even though he wasn't in trouble with NASCAR, he was on public probation. And I think he was on sponsor probation.
M&M
I think he was on organization probation.
Yes.
I think he was on Joe Gibbs probation. I think he was on Mama Kyle Busch probation. Had he gotten in trouble again this year, I think he'd have been in a lot more trouble than typical. And you see it with NASCAR. When he causes an issue, they come down on him because he's got a rap sheet. I think he was handcuffed this year, so when he had that opportunity to push the issue coming out of turn 4 and maybe go for that win or hold on to that position, I think he said, I got to play it cool this year. And I don't think he had that fire and that aggressiveness that he has won so much with. Other drivers outside of the top 12, outside of the chase this year, Joey Logano making an organization switch. Now, Logano hasn't necessarily been tearing up the track as of late. In fact, ever since he got up to the Cup Series, won 2 races in his Cup performance, but he's moving over to a new organization. And by the way, it's the championship winning organization. And a good friend of his, Brad Keselowski. Now, do you think that's going to be a benefit for Joey Logano, or do you think that he's going to stay kind of struggling a little bit in the Cup Series?
I think it could be a benefit. Brad Keselowski is a champion. He knows what it takes to get it done. Joey Logano, a lot would argue that he doesn't. I mean, he's a good driver, but he's not a Brad Keselowski. So when you have the youth right there, I think that could only be a benefit.
I think Joey Logano's a better driver than really Brad Keselowski is. I just think Joey Logano has not had as much help as what you think in that Gibbs organization.
I think the Gibbs organization really focused on Hamlin and Kyle Busch and didn't give Joey Logano maybe what he needed. And Joey Logano over with the Penske organization, I think Roger Penske gives his drivers whatever he can if the driver has to make it their way.
If we can make a quick transition, I want to keep talking about that Penske organization. When we come back in turn 2, we're going to talk about the offer that Roger Penske made Tony Stewart during the award ceremony speech, and I want to get the field's reaction on that offer. Coming up in turn 2, this is a Front Stretch presented by Koziski Auto Parts on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
This is the Front Stretch on AM 590, powered by Koziski Auto Parts. Quality used parts at an affordable price. Now, back to the Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch. This is Turn 2, presented by Koziski Auto Parts. 51st and I Street, 731-4592 is the number you can call to talk to Gary or Andrew and get your car or truck back on the road in full working condition without paying an arm and a leg. You're going to get quality used parts at which you guys offer lifetime warranties on those parts. It's something as a purchase plan, correct?
Yes, sir.
Something that you can purchase. And I tell you what, as a guy who I used to sell warranties for when I sold TVs, and coming from me, nobody ever believed me that you should have those warranties. But I bought my TV. I bought a warranty with it. When I was putting it on the TV stand, my girlfriend at the time dropped it and cracked the case, and I took it right back to them. And they replaced the TV for me, $2,500 TV. I got it brand new because she dropped it. They didn't care, and I paid like $250 for that warranty. They are well worth it when you need them, and there is that every once in a while when you do need it.
You had a girlfriend?
Yeah, it was 5 years ago, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know. It's weird. It's odd. I teased about it a little bit leaving out of Turn 1, and let's talk about it in Turn 2. During the awards ceremony, and while Roger Penske was accepting the honors for winning his championship, he offered Tony Stewart a ride in his equipment for the Indy 500. Now, this would be running double duty for Tony because that is the same weekend as the Coca-Cola 600. The issue Tony's going to have is that you just can't show up on one day. Is the Indy 500 on Saturday and Coca-Cola 600 on Sunday, I believe?
They're both on Sunday.
They're both on Sunday. You can't just show up to the Indy 500, run the race, and then fly to Charlotte because you've got 3 weeks of prep for the Indy 500 while you're running in the middle of your NASCAR schedule. So
hasn't Tony done that before?
Yes, and there's been I think Danica done it one year, didn't she?
Yeah.
I don't think she. Well, the thing is she ran Indy 500 and Nationwide.
Okay. Well, that was 2 days difference.
Right.
Then. The way I look at Tony Stewart, he's a good enough driver, but sponsor duties may not allow it.
Yeah.
The main thing he's got to do, isn't he already minus a sponsor for Ryan Newman right now? He hasn't found one as of this time.
From what I've seen, they're very close to locking up a full schedule for
don't
Ryan.
ruin what you got.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if he goes there and he has to spend a couple of weeks and messes up a sponsor deal, I don't know if that's the smartest thing for him to do. I mean, yeah, nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever won both of them. But on the other hand, he goes up there, and if you crashed and even had to take a trip to the hospital, you might not have time to get to Charlotte. Not saying that, nothing bad would happen, but it's possible. And I don't think it would be the right thing for him to do when you're getting these millions of dollars these drivers are getting today. I think sometimes you have to look back and say, this is what I'm supposed to do, and I own the team, and I should really make sure this sponsor's here for next year.
I'm trying to search for it really quickly. And to my recollection, he has not won the Indy 500.
I don't believe so.
He did. I apologize.
Tony did win this.
He won the Indy 500 in 1996.
Okay.
No one has won double duty, though. Has gone from winning the Indy 500 to, so that would be something. But, God, how incredibly hard would that be? I mean, what if there's a rain delay at the Indy 500? What do you do? You would have to...
You let Roger Penske down and stay in Charlotte and race your other car. And but Roger spent a lot of money to get you there for that full month.
But what an opportunity, though. I mean, we're not talking about just any organization saying, hey, Tony, come run for us. This is Penske. This is the Hendrick of Indy. This is the top of the line, the guy who's won, I believe his organization has won more Indy 500s than any other organization. And it's just absolutely dominant equipment and puts Tony in a prime situation to be the first driver to win the double duties. Should he do it? Will he do it? Boy, only time will tell. But that's kind of I thought that was very interesting that they offered Tony Stewart that ride, and it's under consideration. And I think Tony would hop at the opportunity, just like you said, Joe, if they can make it all work out. But that's the key issue. We want to send out some congratulations to good friends of ours at Iowa Speedway. They were named 2012 Truck Series Race of the Year. And I tell you what, that is accolades that is well deserved. The guys over at Iowa Speedway put on a tremendous track. They have done a great job building that place up, and that place is going to be a lot like Kansas in the next 5 to 6 years.
Oh, I think it's already there. I think the action's better there than it is Kansas in some ways.
I completely agree. That track is identical to Kansas. To me, it looks like a young, smaller version of Kansas.
Rosberg's going to get the award in 2013.
Who?
Rosberg. It's on dirt.
Rosberg,
Ohio.
Eldora.
Oh.
He's a little slow.
They're going to get the award in 2013 for the best truck race.
Iowa got it this year. It was I was at that truck race, and it was a hell of a truck race. And what was it? Hornaday had that win, but I think he got. I don't want to cuss on the air. I think he got the old shaft on that restart, because the rule is the leader has to cross the restart, the start-finish line first, and it sure wasn't him that crossed the start-finish line first. But
Joe, you say Rosberg, Eldora Speedway might get the most popular truck race of the year award. With that being said, though, there's a lot of people out there that don't like dirt, that like NASCAR, and the other way around. If Eldora comes out and says, look, we're going to have a qualifying and we're going to do all this, we're going to have heats and a feature and stuff like that, do you think that could actually maybe hurt their chances at winning most popular truck race? I mean, we're all dirt drivers. So let's look
at it this way. Maybe my statement's off on the most popular truck race. What I'm trying to say is going to be the most viewed truck race. There won't be no one. I don't care if they're at Daytona, and I know that they hold 160,000 people. There's going to be more people watch the truck race from Eldora or Rosberg, whichever place you want to call it, than what will be at any other truck race this year.
You think that'll be a pay-per-view race, or do you think that'll be a nationally televised race?
I don't know why it wouldn't be nationally televised. Aren't there other races?
You've got the Speed Channel. Why wouldn't it be the same?
Well, you got like the Prelude to the Dream. That's insanely popular, and that's pay-per-view.
This is a Craftsman Truck Series. I don't know if Craftsman wants their stuff on pay-per-view. They got Speed Channel and
Camping World.
I'm sorry. I said Craftsman. I meant to say...
It's okay. We still call it the Busch Series and the Winston Cup Series.
Camping World, you know what I'm saying? They've got the Camping World Series that, they're going to want to be on TV, and their TV is going to be... how do you know what they're paying to have this race? They know that this is going to be the most viewed truck race. They know that them people that go to Rosberg and them places all have campers.
Right.
Well, let me ask you guys this, though. Ever since we've talked about this and the news was released that, it's going to happen, I've been kind of wondering, is this going to be the bridge that gaps that divide between the dirt track world and the NASCAR asphalt world? But let me ask you this question, though. Do you think there's guys like me who, I was a NASCAR fan for 12 years before I hate to say it, Joe, I had no idea your track was out there. I had no idea. I knew of Adams County Speedway because it was close to my house. It was, well, within relative vicinity when I grew up. Moving up here, I had no idea that there was all these dirt tracks around here. They were doing it Friday nights, Saturday nights. Hell, when I even met you, the first year and a half I knew you, I didn't know you were a dirt track driver. But
no.
You guys have opened me up to this world, which I love, and thank you for it, by the way. Do you think, as a guy who's me, that before I became addicted to the dirt track world, is this going to be a race I turn off because it's not my asphalt race?
No, I think they're going to turn it on so they can laugh and make fun of it. And when they're all done, they're going to be coming to the next Friday night and Saturday night and Sunday night dirt track race.
So is this the bridge NASCAR needs?
Yes. What they see on TV with a truck race will be the catalyst that now gets legions of women and little kids and fans out to watch Andrew race at I-80 on Friday night. Absolutely.
It's going to be interesting to see. I tell you what, I can't wait for it. July 24th cannot come fast enough. Daytona 500 can't come fast enough. This offseason just plain sucks.
Hey, just think, you're going to get done with the Silver Dollar Nationals and go right to the truck race at Eldora.
That's going to be awesome. And I'll tell you what, we'll give you a little bit of an insight. We're working on some special stuff as far as the front stretch is concerned. Working on a couple of special things for the Silver Dollar Nationals, and hopefully if everything falls into place, boy, doesn't this sound like a NASCAR press conference. Well, we're just waiting for a couple of things to fall into place.
Can't confirm nothing yet.
Yeah.
We might have a sponsor in a couple of weeks.
Where's Bob Pockris with this breaking news, or Marty Smith leaking the stories? So we're working on some great stuff to get out to Silver Dollar Nationals, and we hope you guys do too. When is that date, by the way?
July 19th, 20th, and 21st.
And are tickets on sale? I know you've been...
Tickets are on sale at the office. You can call tomorrow morning.
Give them a buzz and get your tickets in advance. There is 3-day passes, which are very reasonably priced. I was in love with that 3-day pass price.
They're actually the backstretch pass price. The backstretch campers have almost all renewed and all paid already this last week.
Wow, nice.
FYI, seek out the Chad Sanders campsite.
I've heard stories, and from that interview,
it'll be the best.
It's not for the faint of heart.
It's party time.
Coming up just around the corner is our conversation with Kelly Shryock, a legendary dirt track driver. It's a segment we got started just last week, and we're going to continue for the next couple of weeks, and next several weeks actually, called the Legends of the Dirt Track series. And it's where we interview a local legend or a national legend, and keep your ear open because we have a lot of great interviews that we have already done and we are still working on. So maybe we want to tease it a little bit. Should we tease? Maybe there's this guy named Scott Bloomquist we just finished interviewing, and we're working on Jimmy Owens and Billy Moyer and
Terry something or other out of Missouri.
We talked to Terry Phillips last weekend, and we've got Richie Lewis, the director for the Lucas Oil Late Model Series, is going to be joining us. So there's a lot of great drivers and people who have been involved in this sport that we're going to have the opportunity to sit down. And I tell you what, I don't deserve it, but I sure as hell am enjoying these conversations we've been having. So can't wait for you to join us. We'll be back next week. I shouldn't wrap up the show because we still got our conversation with Kelly Shryock. We'll be right back. Turn 3 and 4 just around the corner. This is The Front Stretch, presented by Koziski Auto Parts, 51st and I Street in Omaha on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
You're listening to The Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio. Brought to you by Koziski Auto Parts and Team PRP. Premium recycled parts at an affordable price.
Joining us now on the phone as a part of our Legends of the Dirt series, Kelly Shryock, the number 3 modified driver up in central Iowa. Kelly, thanks so much for joining us.
Good. Always fun to talk to you guys.
Yeah, we talked to you earlier in the year, so, this time we're talking to you. Instead of just getting an update on how your season's going and how it's gone, we want to talk more about how your career has gone and, kind of talk about your influence on the sport and maybe some of those drivers that had influence on you. So let's start right from the beginning. What got you started in dirt track, and at what point in time did you realize this is what I want to do?
Well, I tell you, just like most, a lot of families, my dad raced, and, that's all we really knew is racing, and pretty much was real content working on my dad's car. Kind of got to the point where we started racing, we were racing, and all of a sudden these modifieds showed up, and it looked pretty enticing. So we ended up building a building a modified. I worked for Bob Harris, and we started building cars. Building late models, Bob Harris was, and started building some modifieds, and ended up getting them modified, and wasn't for sure still at that point about driving. It was just kind of one of them deals my dad drove, so obviously it was, in my blood. Things just kind of progressed to the point of getting one, and we built our first car there, and I actually let my dad drive it, and he won first couple nights out with the darn thing and got claimed, and we lost 2 motors in one weekend, and pretty much at that point he was done as my driver because I couldn't really afford to keep losing motors, and we started driving, and that would have been in '85. I actually started racing hockey stock in '84, and got them modified in '85, and we ended up winning our first feature. The season championship night at Fairmont, Minnesota, won our first feature there that night. And my dad had just picked up a pretty good ride with Smith Trucking. Smith, they were from up in Minnesota, and they had a pretty good operation, had a semi that could hold the car. And my dad was a pretty good guy to the point of joking about, let Dad show you how to do it kind of thing. And so I kind of had the one-up on him since I won on a Friday night. So it was time to go to Webster City on Saturday night, and I wasn't racing a modified. And on Saturday night, I was just racing Fairmont. And so it was my turn to harass my dad a little bit about, it's okay, old man, if you can't get the job done, maybe it's time for you to step aside. And I'll be darned if he didn't go and win on the night. So that was pretty cool. And then things kind of went downhill from there. My dad worked construction, and he lost his life on that Monday about 12 o'clock following Monday. So a lot of memories in our first win. He got to see my first win, and then it was all taken away from us. So good and bad there at that point. Not for sure exactly what direction to go. So we just continued to race, and we went the next 2 years without winning a race, which was tough. I think it was just a test to see really how bad, I wanted to be a race car driver. Along the way, my mom, bless her heart, she's my biggest supporter. But my mom had made a comment to me along the way. She was like, are you sure you want to be a race car driver? And I didn't really understand what she was talking about at the time. I was thinking, the commitment and dedication, the dedication and the amount of money being spent, but it was pretty much because I sucked. So my mom was, as nice as she could say it, are you sure you want to be a race car driver? It was like, yeah, heck yeah, it just, I think the next couple of years was a really good test to see, how bad, I wouldn't say how bad, I just wanted to be a race car driver, I guess, on a whole.
In that stretch after losing your father and then going on the 2-year slump, was there some doubt starting to creep in, and were you wanting to maybe, I guess just saying it, were you considering hanging it up?
Oh, yeah, it was real close because it was I think part of it was mentally, it's not that we didn't want to win. I think part of it was, it's not like we were pulling off leading. We'd have a flat tire, maybe running second or first or low motor, running decent. And then it was just a big test to see, the commitment it took to be successful in any sport you do on a whole. That following year, man, we banged off, I think, 20-some wins that next year. So, and then we just started kind of winning. So I am the living proof that if desire is there enough, you can become a pretty good race car driver, even if you don't have the talent to begin with.
Kelly, I want to go back to when your mom was politely asking you, is this something you really want to continue doing? And I know I've had this talk with my wife and some of my friends. They don't, a lot of people, I think, as a driver, talking to a driver, a lot of people don't see a lot of the time and the dedication and the financial money that goes into our race operations. And as a driver asking another, when they say, is this something you really want to do? How do you justify the time and the dedication and the money going into the car? One could sit there and go, well, how can you justify doing this? Or do you want to keep doing this? So how do you justify doing what you're doing now?
That's a good question because, I'm pretty happy to say I'm 47 years old and never have ever even smoked marijuana or did any kind of drugs of any kind. That's, my racing is my addiction. And, people that are addicted to substances or something, I can see the how hard it is to get, not do it if I were to quit racing today. So it's kind of, as years go by and the championships add up, and it's just part of my life. It's been part of my life from, I got pictures when I was 2 years old in my dad's race car seat, grabbing the steering wheel, and now 45 years later, it's the same thing. So it's kind of the only thing I know at this point in time.
The one thing I do want to add to Kelly's comment there, and I'm kind of looking at Dan, because Dan's kind of new to the dirt track. 2012, he really jumped into it waist deep. I was actually at one of the casinos here not too long ago, and I was with a buddy of mine, and and the reason why I asked you that, Kelly, is because I've had that question asked to me 100 times, and I'm looking at 80, 70, 80-year-olds pulling the slot machines, and they're toking on an O2 bottle, and then I see some of the other folks, and they're smoking and drinking and whatnot. I'm like, man, I don't do any of this. This is why I do what I do. It keeps me out of places like this. Something.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, people are like, well, you waste your money at the casinos. Like, well, yeah, but at least I can make money with my race car. They're like, you're not making money at racing. I was like, well, I get $20 back at the end of the night.
Yeah, no doubt. and that's how we got to look at it sometimes. In today's world I think every form of dirt track racing, whether it's a street stock to IMCA car to open mod car like we run, it's just getting to the point where, the modifieds used to be really, really good, to the point where you could run fifth place, get $500, in our series, USMS when it started, and you could pay your bills and on $500 a night, racing now. I don't even know what's that. It's scary thought. It's $1,500, $1,800, $2,000 a night. By the time you add everything up to race nowadays, and travel, and you need a full-time crew guy, if not two, and the people with money. My partner Eric Kirschbaum says it best. Eventually, the rich people have nobody to pick on because the rest of us won't be able to afford to do this stuff.
Go back to talking about the 2-year slump, and then you got your next win. Was that a very emotional win? Was that kind of a huge relief off your shoulders to get that W in the column?
It was, because, it had been 2 years plus. I mean, we were racing 3 nights a week at that point then. And, it was kind of scary because the last time we won, something really, really bad happened. I was 18 years old and lost definitely my best friend, and lost my dad. So it was kind of scary, not knowing if something bad was going to happen out of doing good, but we were able to overcome that and take the positives from it, and we're approaching almost 400 wins now, and it's all positive for us, in today's world.
Is your plans for next year staying basically what you've been doing with the USMTS, or you going to try to stay more around home, or what is your plans? I mean, when you start talking about $1,500 a race, I know most of that money goes in the haulers, just getting them up and down the road and traveling a lot of miles. I mean, you can about figure $1 a mile from what I've always figured for the mileage going up and down the road and the fuels. What is your plan to kind of help cut that cost so you don't end up going broke before the next 5 years?
We're going to, take a look at Todd's schedule. Todd runs the USMTS, and see what the schedule looks like. He's cutting back to a total of 60 races, which is more to what we're looking at, and kind of really beat the woods and see what kind of sponsorships we can raise, and see if we can justify running all the shows. And if not, we'll maybe pick a region and then just race the hunt races at the end of the year. Kind of unknown. I'm very excited for next year. We got our new car out there at the end of last year, and it's showing huge potentials. So really, really looking forward to that. And just got to, even with a good car, I mean, we went to Lakeside there at the end of the year, had a good car, started 6th, took the lead 3 or 4 laps in, 26 laps down of 30 laps, starting flywheel broke and knocked my fuel pump belt off, and we left out of there with, a couple $100 instead of a couple $1,000. So even in the good times, you have, you got a good car, and if you don't have a little luck on your side, then, you can still go in the hole even with a good car. But we're really looking forward to next year, and hopefully we can run up front a little bit more, and create some revenue along the way, and kind of maybe pick and choose. So to answer your question, not really sure. Hopefully we can put things together to where we can race all of them shows. But if I keep taking money out of my 401k to go racing, I'm not going to be able to live as long as I would like to.
Well, right now we've got 3 of the races here at I-80 Speedway, 2 with the Silver Dollar Nationals and 1 scheduled to come on with Sunday, August 11th, I believe it is. One of the hunt races. I believe it's the first weekend of the hunt right after they get done at Deer Creek. Will we be expecting to see you in Omaha for all 3 of those shows?
More than likely, that's close. That's a 4-hour drive for us, so I would say yes. That's probably, if we pick a region, it'll be the central region. I assume that'll be in the central region or north region. In the southern regions, you drive to Texas and back. You're just, that's kind of why we're going to look at his schedule. Hopefully we can knock, 3 or 4 or 5 races in a row off on the southern stuff, so we only have to travel down there, 2 or 3 times and not have to, make half a dozen trips to Texas to compete in that region. So that's the big thing. I want to see what the schedule is, and, we've got a lot of helping us along the way, and hopefully, some of them will continue supporting us, and so we can continue to do what we obviously love to do.
Something I've noticed about the racing, the guys that are becoming the legends and kind of into the age group where you're at, Terry Phillips has been on the show. He had a dad that was great in racing. You're on the show. You got a dad that was great in racing. Throughout all your travels, is it just the Midwest where they were close and the kids followed their dad's footsteps, in order to get better in racing, or does that seem to be something that you're finding in Texas and in California and Arizona and places like that where you're going, or how does it all work with them, or is it just money that's bringing the young kids up now?
It's just kind of hit and miss. There's still a lot of, the racing isn't as popular today as it was back then, so there's a lot less people, families and young kids coming up from following in their dad's footsteps. The talent that's out there now is, in our modified is, we got some great young talent that we race against every week. They're in their 20s. I think the 3 kids going for the championship this year, I call them kids. They're 20, 21, 22 years old. They're less than half my age, and they got some really good backing and supporters backing them, and they're awesome drivers, and they're ruling the sport because of their age, and they're just because they're 21 years old, like Roy Gustin, he's been racing since he could barely see over steering wheel in a go-kart, so he's got lots of years of experience, and he's got the backing of Vic Russell, and it's obviously a winning combination, and there's quite a few guys like that. So I think Ronnie Sanders, his dad raced, Ryan Gustin, his dad raced, Stormy Scott. I don't think Stormy or Johnny, their dads raced, but I'd say every other one or every 2 or 3 out of 6, there's big roots, family roots in racing, and just Ryan, my God, everybody's racing in his family, so they live and breathe this stuff just like we do.
We talk about family, and you're kind of building on that a little bit. I know you've got a son that has expressed interest to not be a race car driver. Talk about that a little bit. Do you feel like maybe he might change his mind someday, or is it pretty much set in stone that he's not sitting behind a wheel?
I don't know. We really don't talk about it a whole lot. He's big into game, fishing, hunting, and that kind of stuff. So, it'd be fun if he could do it, but, it's just the dedication. And, it's kind of cool that he gets to do all this other stuff that, I don't really... He talked into going duck hunting here a few weeks ago, and, that's his passion, is shooting them darn ducks. And I think how stupid that was. And I was out in the water at 6 o'clock in the morning, and when the sun come up and them ducks come in, I can see the excitement there. That was a lot of fun.
Did you get one?
Oh, yeah. We ended up getting 8 ducks. So we got a Drake mallard and some wood ducks, and it was a blast. It was pretty fun. So
what would you rather do? Go duck hunt with your son, or run side by side going into turn 1?
Probably side by side. Turn 1 would be tight.
Especially if it was with one of them 20, 21, 22-year-old kids that we've been talking about, right?
We probably wouldn't get to turn 2, probably.
We'll be right back with Kelly Shryock right after this.
This is The Front Stretch on AM 590, powered by Kosiski Auto Parts. Quality used parts at an affordable price. Now, back to The Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch, presented by Koziski Auto Parts, 51st and I Street in Omaha. And we're continuing our conversation with Kelly Shryock.
Kelly, we're talking about money and the longevity of the sport in some ways. As a chassis owner and manufacturer that's been involved in racing for over 30 years, how do you or where do you see our sport in 20 years from now and 30 years from now? Because something's going to have to give because of the money. I mean, wow.
Minus Kelly Shryock probably in 20 or 30 years from now, right?
Yeah, I tell you, I mean, it's probably going to come down to, I think, if you go to races and they have, the sport mod, more affordable racing, there's twice the cars, our open racing, I think we're our own worst enemies. Technology has pretty much ruined our class like all the other top classes. I don't know what it is. They're trying to get the crate motors in, and I don't know if that's good or bad. If we could come up with, we would all race tricycles if that's what we had. But our tricycles are pretty advanced in today's world. So, competing and just having fun. I think there's too many people out there that can use racing as a write-off. And it's unfortunately, it's the male ego to stand in victory lane that, ruins our sport. And it's just, our engines are expensive, our cars are expensive, and everything is just expensive. The travel and is a huge part of the expense, which is out of our control. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Hopefully somebody will come up with something that keeps the modified going. Really been my life since 1985, so it's a huge part of my life, and it's a class that I love, and hopefully we can somebody can get the handle on the rules, so people in the next 20 years can enjoy modified racing, because may I be a little partial, but we do put on a really good show.
Well, speaking about that, do you have any plans of moving up maybe to late models or sprints, or going up to a different class, or are you? I mean, you've been running modifieds for a long time, so, the answer is probably no, but do you have any desire to move up to a different class? And I don't mean up to a different class, but move to a different class?
No, not at this point in time, especially as I'm getting older here. I mean, the modified is kind of where we're at, and, with building modifieds, that's kind of obviously my business. And, I would love to run late models. That's what I come out of with my dad. We raced, he raced late models from the time I was old enough to know what a race car was up until, when I was 18 years old. It was working on late models. When I was 12, 13 years old, when the NDRA and the Outlaws and the big wings and the wedge bodies and the 100, and, we used to run a 16-inch right rear tire that was 108 inches around, grooving them, and, that's what we come out of. And, I would love to race a late model, but that's just financially not feasible for me. We run late model a little bit. We run IMCA for a few years and won a few races there, but same old thing. People want to be, unfortunately, they want to be around winners. If you're not winning, people want to see you win, and it takes a lot of support from sponsors. And if you're not winning, the support isn't there as much. But for myself in today's world, I got a lot of great people helping me, and they just let me do kind of how I want to do it. I think I got off track on your question a little bit. I love to run late model, but my modified is definitely my passion.
Well, what do you think about the trucks running, NASCAR running the trucks on dirt? And if somebody called and said, Kelly, we want you to pilot a truck, would you?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, for sure. You'd have, it'd be tough to not take that opportunity. But there's so many talents. I think back in the day when NASCAR was getting going, I was too young when they started, and now I'm too old. I missed the group, and I really didn't, really want to. I mean, we actually, a quick story. We was kind of tired of racing IMCA modifieds. We've been claimed 50 times, so I understand the claim and how that all works, and we were just really tired of the claiming, and so we actually, Kenny Schrader was racing a lot of stuff for Bob Harris. And we set up an interview with me. We went to Hendricks Motorsport and was sitting in a new shop talking to a new crew chief called, his name was, Ray Abraham. And they had this new driver called Jeff Gordon was going to drive. And I was sitting in this makeshift office with Ray Abraham, looking over, and they only had like 1 or 2 cars in there, and they were trying to get ready for Florida. That's kind of when USMS came about, and that was the first really true traveling series for modifieds. And I kind of like, you know what, I'm not ready to move south to work on a car yet. We're going to continue to try this traveling with a modified, because I can't financially do it with the late model, but it'd be fun to do it with a modified. And so we asked on the job with Ray Abraham and Jeff Gordon guy. That would have been, you can probably do the math and figure that out. USMS started in 90, 91, 92, somewhere in there, 93, 90, anyway. So we've been on the road racing modifieds ever since, so pretty cool.
Passed up an opportunity to work with those two guys, huh?
Yep, it was, Drew Schrader, we sat in that, it was a makeshift office up on top. They were trying to put together a crew and a team. That's when Kenny was driving for Hendrick. And, it would have been interesting to see, nowhere, shape, or form was I going down there to race, to be a race car driver. It was just no way possible. But it would have been interesting to see if, where my career would have went if would have took that job instead of coming back to modified racing. But I don't regret at all racing a modified.
Did you ever lay awake at night wondering what if?
Yeah, a little bit. Just, them guys make a lot of money.
Yeah, especially that Ray Abraham and Jeff Gordon guy.
Yeah, just the crew guys. I know working at Harris in our heyday, 1996, I think my numbers might be off a little, but we built 150, 60 cars there, and we had like 20-some employees that worked for Bob. Lots of our guys went south. That was kind of a big boom in NASCAR to a certain point of the era. I know Todd Anderson, he's crew chiefing for the Burger King car. So I've got a lot of guys that went down south to NASCAR and crew chiefing, and he was telling me the kind of money he was making is like, oh my God, just go from a $10 an hour job in the mid-90s, 6 figures. Yeah, think about the money sometimes, but, we're not in this world for very long, and you got to enjoy what you do. And if working on being a crew chief for a NASCAR team is it, or driving a modified, I don't know that I would change a whole lot at this point.
I know on the state of Iowa was a lot of IMCA, and you don't seem to push the IMCA a whole lot. You run the USMTS. So when you have to leave the middle of the state of Iowa everywhere you go in order to be able to get to a race, most of the time, probably your minimum tow is 100 or 150 miles, I'm guessing. When you're making that tow, which way do you like going the best for your modified racing? Do you seem to have your best luck going north up through the Minnesota area? I know they do a lot of USMTS and a lot of racing like that, or is it when you get down south in the Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas area?
I'd say wherever we can go to race. That's, when you just, love to race, for the sport of racing. The Minnesota is probably the biggest modified fan base there is. A lot of good race car drivers from Minnesota that we raced against. In the Midwest, I think if you look back when modified started racing, I'm probably being a little partial because I'm from the Midwest, but, we had to race against Ron Jones and Mark Noble and Wayne Larson, Denny Anderson, these guys that all raced against my dad in the late models. When I started racing, them guys had 10, 12 years, 15 years of experience on me, and we we could maybe run second, but Mark Noble would be out in front of me by half a lap. I think racing against him, Ron Jones, like I said, Wayne Larson and Denny Anderson, there's just 4 of many more talents that, they had lots of experience. We came up the hard way, man. We had to race, really hard, and finally, we were able to put the program together to, start clicking off a few wins. And I don't know how many seconds I've run against Mark Noble, but I would probably be in the 500 feature win category if I didn't have to race against them. Mark Noble alone, probably. I know we run second to him. I may even be the numbers off, but over 100 times I have. That guy would be out leading the race, thin out. We'd be leading the race and thinking we had it won, and he'd come from the tail and drive by you and win the race still. So, racing against the likes of them guys, it's going to do two things for you racing against good guys. It's either you're going to get better or you're going to go broke trying to, compete against them. And learning how they raced, and you have to be fast. Especially in today's world, you got to be really fast to win. So.
Kelly, you've got a little bit of experience under your belt. You've got, a few wins and quite a bit of advice you could give. So what is a piece of advice you would give somebody that's looking to get into maybe the modified series or maybe just into dirt track? If there's one nugget of gold you could give them to help them along in their career, what would it be?
I think the biggest thing is hook up with the right people. Hook up with somebody that can give you good information. A chassis builder, a friend, a co-racer that you can mimic what they're doing the best you can. The learning curve is, big, but, the driving curve is one thing, but that's just a small part of success of staying in victory lane. It's the whole package. It's your engine package, your crew package, it's the chassis package, the driving package, so it's a small aspect of winning.
Well, Kelly, we greatly appreciate you sitting down with us and becoming a part of this Legends of the Dirt series that we're working on. Have a great night. Have a great 2013, and thanks so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it.
You're talking legend, so that's putting me in the old guy category now. Is that what that is?
Okay. First, I'm gonna tell everybody this because they're all like, "You're putting me in the legends category." It's a distinguishing honor, but I look over here and we have Joe Koziski, who should have been sponsored by Land O'Lakes Butter. You ever seen how big Joe is and trying to squeeze in a little 12-inch window?
Hey, bud.
It's like putting a square in a round peg hole.
Maybe you should wait till Joe leaves to start picking on him. He may have a belly, but he'll whoop you.
As we get older, we enjoy our food a lot more, and I can still see my feet, but they're starting to disappear on me too. So. I'm not going to make fun of Joe at this point in time. That's no way.
Well, yes, Kelly, you definitely do sit in that legends category, and even though you haven't retired and haven't fully been crowned the legend, I think we all felt like you're well on your way, and so we wanted to throw you into this category.
Well, we appreciate that, and it'll give us time when we get old to be able to look back and go, yeah, that was pretty cool what we accomplished, for sure.
The glory days.
Yep.
Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today and being our second interview in the Legends of the Dirt series. We hope you have a great 2013 and a great offseason. And thanks to everyone out there who listened to this. If you want to get an idea of who's up next for the Front Stretch Legends of the Dirt series interviews, head over to our Facebook page. It's The Front Stretch. Just search for it and you'll track it down that way. We're going to have a full list of interviews posted online, but in the meantime, enjoy your day. We'll be back next weekend with another great edition of The Front Stretch and another amazing interview in the Legends of the Dirt series. For Joe Koziski, for Buddy Ray, and Andrew Koziski, I'm Dan Taylor. Thanks for listening.